Welcome back to your channel. My name is Brad, and today we're going to talk about business development companies, BDCs. If that's what you're looking for, stick around. So my name is Brad, and I've been retired now 7 months, going on 8. And one of the conversations the other day was business development companies and BDCs. These are part of my pillars, and they have been doing very well, actually outperforming the market at times. And you can get your 8%. So I did a video and somebody says, you think you're as good as a professional fund manager at picking BDCs? And I went, I think I'm just as good, if not even better, because he has certain rules that he has to play by, but I don't have to play by. And then he's going to charge you 0.8 in management fees. And you sit there and go, why am I going to give up 0.8? Now, part of this conversation is you should have the two business development company ETFs all in one, BIZD and PBDC as a core holding. Not saying that there's anything wrong with those guys, but a core holding and then hold individual business development companies. And I was a little wishy-washy about just holding a bunch of them, so I broke it down to what are the best ones. And I did this very logically. So let's go ahead and break this down for you so you can see how this broke down and how did I end up comparing to a professional manager of BDC. And we'll see how this works out for me. So the first thing I do is I go out to Raymond James. Raymond James does a whole entire multiple page PDF every week on business development companies. And they give you almost everything that you could want for data. And that is a conversation. It's almost. If you go through complete data, it's just about there. But there is a couple things missing. But I love the data. Easy to download. You just transfer it into an Excel spreadsheet and off to the races you go. At the end of the day, I started looking at this and I go, all right, how do I break this down? Like a professional fund manager, what would I look at? So the first thing I did was I took assets under management. Said, okay, I want $500,000 or more because if they're the small guys in the pond, I might not want to deal with them as an individual holder. I want to go for the bigger fish. So that was the first criteria, $500,000 or above. Then I looked at the last 12 months have been very good for business development companies. So obviously the NAV has to be up. And those eliminated some other business development companies that were down. I then looked at base coverage. Then I looked at debt to equity, debt to market. Then I looked at the sectors that they held. And this is the part that they don't have in there. I started looking at the loans that they hold. But I didn't look at the loans that they hold until after I narrowed this down to a very small group instead of the whole entire group. That allowed me to get this done in just a couple hours. So how did this work out for me? Well, at the first pass, it's Ares Capital, ARCC, and then it's Blue Owl, and then it's Blackstone, and then it's Maine and Hercules and Trinity and Carlisle and Crescent. This is how it came up. Very consistent. Now, the only thing that I saw that stood out was Blue Owl Capital with their debt to equity was 125%. That's a little bit on the rich side. At least I was using 125. I said, that's close enough. So I let them into the group final. But that was what I was looking for. Coverage. You had to have 105% or higher to make it in there for coverage. So you can see that I eliminated some of the well-known business development companies just because either something was amiss, they didn't have enough coverage, their loans, or something. And that was after I did all that analysis. I got a complete list. I had a list of 13 that I broke it down to. I took that list and said, you know what? what does ChatGPT say about these 13 business development companies. So I threw them in there and it spit out a whole entire categorization of what these things end up doing. So it breaks it down to risk level, NAV trend, best four, and it did a whole entire analysis. And I sat there and said, that is very interesting how it did the analysis. Now, let's face it, I did give it all the information that it needed to be able to do that analysis, just kind of pointing that out that I had downloaded a lot of the fact sheets and I had downloaded other information so I could feed it into ChatGPT to give some type of correlation. But you can see on the slide which ones had the strong NAV growth, which one had NAV declines, even though I went back and looked at that and said, more recently, it's actually had stronger NAV on some of those, but okay, they're looking a little bit of a historical perspective. Then I looked at what's it best for. I really broke this down. One that stood out was Trinity with best for upside potential. That's why it actually made the list. How did this list finally break down? Because I just didn't go say, hey, here's my list. I broke it down to 5. And I wanted to bring those 5 up. These are my 5. Doesn't have to be anybody else's 5, but this is how I broke them down to 5. And they come down to ARCC, Blue Owl Capital, Blackstone, Main Street, Hercules, and Trinity. And I'm going to say BXSL. Now that's a good one because 98% of their loans are senior secured loans, meaning there is collateral on the other side of that loan. And they're senior. So if the company does go out of business, they're going to get their money first. And that is important. But I started looking at this going, the last 12 months, I would have a combined average of 14.1% in increase in my NAV. I had a total yield of 10.3. I had a base dividend coverage of 122%. And my debt to equity was 102.6%. That is pretty good for just being a random individual. Maybe has an MBA, but who knows? Maybe I don't. No, I really do. It's sitting right over there. Anyway, I went ahead and did all the calculations, and this is what I come up with. Looks pretty good to me. But how did I compare to that professional fund manager that you're paying all that money to? So I go ahead and take a look at his sheet and wow, 1, 2, and 3 are exactly the same. And then I missed GBDC. Notice how I said that very slow, GBDC. That's because the last video, I couldn't get those letters right to save my life, and I even misspelled them on a piece of paper. But then again, I am just copying them over from Excel workbooks, so I didn't know how I messed it up, but I did. But not everybody is perfect. Even I make mistakes, and I make mistakes very often. I came up with his top 6, or right in there with my top 5, but that GBDC did not fall into mine. So why? Why did it not fall into mine? And I went back and I looked and said, why did I give them the boot? Well, that was easy. Their base dividend coverage was only 100%, and I wanted 105. That is what eliminated them from the running. They had the market cap, they had 12-month return, nothing else. But base dividend coverage was only 100%. So I eliminated them because I wanted 105 or above. That was a quick analysis, down and dirty. I didn't get into some of the loans and how I looked at them, but I'm just giving you what is out there for you to go do your own research and figure out which business development companies do you want to have. I think you should have business development companies as some part of your base for income. It doesn't have to be a large percentage. It could be 5, 10, 20%. That is totally up to you and what you think you want to get involved with business development companies because there is risk for credit. It's called credit risk. Imagine that. That was really a genius comment. Anyway, there is credit risk. So don't think that these are 100% safe. But then again, look what happened to your stocks and covered calls. Clearly, there's risk in those also. There's risk in all investments. Just that's why you have diversification in your portfolio. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you enjoyed this whole entire rant of Brad going through business development companies and saying, yes, you can pick them just as good as a professional. And lo and behold, I came pretty darn close as the professional. Now, granted, he sits there and probably has conversation with these people more often than I would have a conversation with them. But then maybe he's also influenced by those conversations. So there is that to be given. There could be some bias because he's having these conversations. But looking at the data, he's picked. My top 5 was in his top 6. So he is picking the best funds that are out there. So I can't complain. I'm going to hold his fund, but I am going to go ahead and develop those 5 into small holdings over time and let them build up so they can add to my income over time. Until next time, God bless.